Hey guys, it's Simon and Jase from Coast. Welcome to podcast number 2. Good to see you again, Jase.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, we're underway. Hope you guys got some value out of our first episode that was released last week, the week before. So we've got a bit to run through today, guys. We are going to talk today about the common mistakes that we see buyers make. And for those of you that have purchased recently or looking to purchase, hopefully a lot of these will resonate with you. We've got a number of topics to run through, Jase, so let's kick it off. The first one we're going to talk about is the emotion of buying and chasing emotion and letting probably emotion or your feelings about a home get in the way of making smarter decisions.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, we experience it with our buyers. We've had a number of occasions where one of our clients has gone through a property at an open home. The open home has been overwhelmingly busy and they've walked out of it and said, let's put an offer on this one. However, once we started to explore the property in a little bit more detail, we've discovered that there's some unfavourable aspects of the property. Renovated ones in particular, a number of properties that I've inspected where it's been renovated, some DIY renovators do a really, really good job. Other people less so. So some of the ones that we've gone and explored when there's been nobody there has allowed the buyer to inspect it in a little bit more detail and see that it's not quite as polished as what it looked at the initial inspection. We had this as recent as 2 weeks ago. One of our buyers went through an open home on the weekend. They had some free time because we'd looked at a bunch of property during the week. They went through an open home without me and gave me a buzz and said, Jase, let's put an offer on it. And I said, okay, let's just cool the jets. I haven't seen the property yet. Let me carry out some due diligence on it. Let me have a look at some comparables and see just how suitable this is. We had a really clear understanding of their brief, and part of the brief was that they wanted to be in a quiet pocket of the coast. So when we started to review the property in detail, we found that there were some unfavourable hazards and overlays and things like that. So we revisited the property as a private inspection when nobody was there, and ultimately they went out the backyard and found that it was a really, really noisy and ruled the property out. So the emotion was there. I think left to their own devices, they would have secured that property. They would have gotten into the market, happy days. But I think when they were sitting out the back and having a cup of tea, it would have become quite apparent once they'd settled into the property that it wasn't suitable.
I think it's worth noting too, Jase, that the emotion can actually come into play for buyers before they've even inspected the property. So the people that are doing this journey and the buyers out there that are attempting to buy on their own may relate to this, is that when they're searching online and on paper or on screen, the floor plan works for us, there's an extra playroom for the kids, the kitchen's been nicely renovated, emotion is already starting to take effect before and they're viewing it the next day at the open home. So they're already fairly emotional about it because this one seems like it's the right one. It's the right fit. And they drive into the street and just different things like a lot of cars, a lot of other people here, that emotion is then lifted again. They walk up, yes, it's in a cul-de-sac, we knew that. It's got a nice rainforest backdrop, we knew that. Emotion's running high again. They go to the front door, they're greeted by the agent and there's 20 pairs of shoes. Again, this one's really popular. We've got to make a decision before, and they haven't even stepped in the door yet. So guys, the emotion can start when you're online and you're finding it online or it's appeared in your search. That's often your emotions are heightened, therefore got to spend, got to make decision, and it's not a grounded, pragmatic decision. It's already running high.
And in today's market, I'm at open homes over the weekend, keep my finger on the pulse. Agents, when they're checking people in, if in the event the property suits, you'll need to have your offer in by 5 o'clock. We've already got 3 offers, guys. Again, the fear of missing out goes through the roof. They walk through and come out and go, we're never going to get into the market. We're going to have to put offers in.
Yeah, an agent can say to you at the open home, guys, by the way, this is not under contract yet. However, it went online Thursday. We've had offers subject to inspection or sight unseen. It's going to go under contract this afternoon. So just letting you know, there's a letter of offer form on the table, and already it's like, oh my God.
This is the market. This is where we're at.
So the FOMO kicks in, and so be very, very careful. So one thing that a buyer's agent is able to do is we often say, let's park the emotion. Let's come from it. I think you use the word pragmatic. Your head's not in the clouds, your feet are on the ground. It's a more grounded approach. We understand there is going to be some emotion, but I just think it's important to know when to park it.
Yes.
particularly with a family home purchase or a property that's going to become your home. Different story with
Investment, yeah.
but certainly with a home purchase, there is going to be a degree of emotion, and what I think what a buyer's agent is able to do is help you manage that. You have to have a feeling about the home, but we manage that process a lot better.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I say to our buyers, we'll explore properties, we'll put a plan A, B and C in place. However, when you put your foot in the front door, you'll know that it's the one. However, a lot of people will put their foot in the front door at an open home for a property that they've just seen for the first time. This isn't the one, but it's close enough. And unfortunately, that can sort of skew things. So we want it to be, we've carried out all of the diligence and price analysis. We've had a look at any easements. There's no overlays. It's not in the flood zone. The property that you're putting your foot in the front door to it, if it feels like the right one, great, because it ticked all the boxes in regards to your brief.
The next topic I want to bring up is not having clear criteria. What we mean by that, guys, is you're going into this property search without some clear guidelines.
Yep.
In terms of property, sometimes property type, that might sound strange, but there's people out there that come to us and, oh, geez, Jase, we hadn't considered a townhouse, or we hadn't considered a villa. We want low maintenance living. We thought we'd just buy a house. Okay, you might be able to move into what you feel is a more desirable and less affordable suburb,
Yep.
but you're not buying a house, you're buying a townhouse. So criteria is property type. There's certainly suburbs or areas or regions of the coast that you want to buy in. Your budget may or may not be able to be adjusted. Sometimes some people have a fixed budget, we understand that. But make sure you're going into that search with a fairly clear idea of what you're looking for.
Yeah. And this can work for or against yourself, depending on, I hate to use the word picky, depending on how picky you are.
Particular
Particular is probably a better word.
Yeah.
So I've had scenarios with buyers where they've given me a really clear brief. Low set, has to be 4-bedroom, must be 2 bath, must have a double lock-up, needs to have a pool, got to have room for the caravan, and they tell me to put an offer forward on a townhouse. I'm like, okay, but that's very different to your brief. Others will, okay, we want 4, 2 and 2, low set in this particular area, and we'll go out and inspect a property. It meets their brief and probably more than, and falls within budget. Hasn't got a split system in the master bedroom. I'd like a split system in the master bedroom. Okay, would you consider putting one in? No. Okay, you're probably being a little bit particular, but we will continue this. We'll never tell you what property to purchase. However, this one does meet your brief. And subsequently, fast forward 3 months, my goodness, we should have purchased the one that needed the aircon and put that in. So acceptable and unacceptable compromises. So unacceptable compromises is it backs onto the motorway. I mean, you can close your eyes. It might sound like the ocean for a little while. Backs onto the motorway and you want it to be in an area that wasn't going to be noisy. That's an unacceptable compromise.
Or it could be with a family. We've got clients at the moment, they are moving from a smaller home to a larger home and they want 2 living areas, because they've got an active family, young children, and they want to have 2 areas where they can entertain or have family time. So an unacceptable compromise, this is a perfect property for you guys, however it has 1 living room.
Yes.
Well, that's unacceptable.
That won't work.
We've got 1 living area where we are.
Yeah, it's going to become tight really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So we speak about price, we speak about position, we speak about the property, and in general, we find it's sort of that 2 to 3 week mark. The priority seems to bubble to the surface, and the priority is either the position of the property itself, or the price point. So we've got some really wonderful clients that we've just gone under contract for, and when we engaged, they said the areas that we want to buy in is these 2 pockets, and this is the style of property that we wanted. And as we started to explore the budget and the style of property that they get for that budget, they were underwhelmed. Like, okay. So from time to time, a client will allow you to do this. Jase, this is what we want. We want to be able to ride to the beach. We want it to be flat. We want to be able to go for a walk down to the local. Is there any other suburbs that you'd suggest? Absolutely. There's some other suburbs that I'd suggest you explore. Introduced them to the suburb. They came down. They wanted to be able to ride to the beach. They rode to the beach from the house. This is fantastic. We never would have bought in here. And subsequently, that's where we've ended up purchasing. So I think that if you set out to buy your perfect property, you may be looking for a long time. And what we're seeing at the moment is if you're struggling to get into the market with the budget that you've got 1.5. The property that you want, you want it to have the air conditioner in the master bedroom. If you continue to miss out on those properties and you just keep searching for the next 12 months, your 1.5 is going to get you a very, very different property this time next year.
I think the mistake that most buyers do make, and the reason it takes them so long to buy, is A, they're not prepared to compromise. They don't do any due diligence, and they probably undervalue the property. Think there's no way it's worth that.
Yep.
There's no way it's worth that. I mean, we had a client in previous years where they've been looking on and off, and I'd seen this couple at numerous open homes over a number of years, and they kept saying, there's no way that house is worth X. It sells for X. There's no way that house is worth Y in that street. It sells for Y.
Yep.
And they're always chasing the market.
Yep.
Always chasing
Forever
the market.
behind.
Yeah, forever behind. And the
Yep.
markets continue to move. So the next one is undervaluing time or timing. The timing of, in terms of those that we call them fence sitters, or they generally procrastinate a little bit.
Yep.
And that could be, we're pre-approved, but we don't think it's the right time for us to buy. For example, we've just had an interest rate rise. What does that mean? There's economic influences out there that we can't change. The market is continuing to be very strong and very popular on the coast. I think there's a lot of people that they just waste a lot of time.
Yep.
And even when they engage or they start looking themselves without the assistance of a buyer's agent, they procrastinate and miss out on properties that probably suit them.
Yes. Yep. I've got a wonderful client that we bought for, and he actively says to me, I really should have listened to that prior one. But we found a property that met the brief. It was a good investment property for him. And from the time that we purchased it to the time of settlement, the jump had been about 40 grand, about $40,000. And he'd kept an eye on properties as we got closer and closer to settlement. And he said, am I right in thinking that if I was to try and sell it today, it'd probably be, or try and buy it today, there'd be about a $40,000 disparity? I said, yeah, correct. That's what you've seen jump. So we see buyers that have been in the space trying to secure a property for 6 months or 9 months, and they're finding that 1-1, they get a very, very different property. So our average buying time is generally within the first month. When we find and secure something for somebody and they see that, okay, it's a 60-day settlement, we had a fee. The price of the property that they're trying to purchase at that time has gone up that much that, oh my God, you guys negated your fee just by getting me into the market quickly. And that's not, we speak about the importance of time and timing in the market. But there's a very big difference between somebody trying to purchase a property when they've got 1 day a week to focus on it.
And 1 day is, I think, generous.
Yep.
We often talk about we're actively sourcing, inspecting and negotiating properties on a daily basis, whereas people that are out there attempting to buy themselves, how many hours a week? It wouldn't be a day. You're looking online, you've got busy lives, you're dealing with businesses, careers, jobs, families, kids, commitments, school, after school activities, like everyone's week is busy. How much time can you then allocate to making possibly the most important financial decision of your life?
Yep.
We've got probably maybe 3 or 4 hours a week, and then the time that we have on the weekends, and then we go to those open homes and we are disappointed, or it's busy, or it's popular, or it's... So it is difficult.
Yes.
So time in the market and the timing of you coming in and the time that it takes you to procrastinate over a decision. I spoke to a couple last week. They're from Brisbane. They want to buy in the southern end of the coast. They'd been thinking about buying in a certain coastal pocket of Caloundra for 18 months. And I said to them, how much do you think the market's moved? Were you ready to buy 18 months ago? Yeah, we're cash buyers. We've been holidaying on the coast for 20 years and we're tossing up between Mooloolaba and the Caloundra end of the coast. We've decided Caloundra suits us better. So I guess everyone's got their own time frame, everyone's got their own strategy, everyone's got life that gets in the way. But when you think about it, in hindsight, it's all very well to say, but we know the market continues to move. So often procrastination, well, they say it's the thief of time. It can cost you a lot of money.
And, for the time that is available to your mum and dad that are running a family and going to work, get out there on Saturday and have a look at it. Say to the agent, we'll consider it and we'll give you a buzz on Monday. They call on Monday and it's under contract.
Yeah.
So we're active 6 days a week. Last Sunday, we had made the decision to move forward with a purchase. All the due diligence had been carried out during the week.
Yeah.
So we were ready to go, spoke to the agent, this is how we're presenting the offer, that'll get the deal done, and we're under contract on a Sunday. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe that we do this on a Sunday. We buy when we need to purchase the property. So many people woke on the Monday, let's call the agent and let them know that we're ready to throw a hat in the ring. apologise, a buyer's agent bought it yesterday, it's under contract.
Or the agent attempts to make their callbacks after the open on a Saturday, or sometimes the weekend, but mostly on earlier in the following week. And that particular person's busy in their work life again or their family life. And we've got interest in that, and they just don't get around to ringing that agent back, or they finally connect on the Wednesday or Thursday.
Yep.
Guys, it was available and I rang you Monday. It's now under
right.
contract. The next one is ignoring competition. So not understanding how many buyers are active, not positioning your offer strategically.
Yeah. So an agent that I spoke to last week said that they have a buyer that has put in countless offers with them, and they still continue to put in offers that were 2022 prices. We just don't, we feel that we'd be able to negotiate from here. And the agent, they're a lovely buyer, but they just keep missing, and they have been doing so for the past 12 months. So if they had have been just a little bit less conservative 12 months ago, they'd be in the market today. But being incredibly conservative, and the guide is 1.1 to 1.2, we should be able to buy it for $1,020,000. You're going to struggle to get in the market when that's the approach.
I think a good bit of advice that hopefully our listeners will find helpful is, if you're attempting to do this yourself, we obviously know what we do as buyers agents, but just probably ask yourself this question, put yourself in the seller's shoes. If the agent is giving you a guide or a price guide and you've done a little bit of due diligence, or they've given you a CMA on the property, which the agent would normally provide, the offer you're going to make, if you think that's a bit cheeky, because obviously it's human nature, you're trying to buy it as less as you can and the seller's trying to get as much as they can, that's just human nature. But before you make that initial offer, or you put your toe in the water to try and buy the property, is that initial offer going to help or hinder your opportunity to buy the property? If you think it's going to annoy, again, put yourself in the seller's position. If you think that's going to upset the seller, if the agent says, I wouldn't recommend you do that, and you still want to push forward and make that offer, it doesn't put you in a very strong position to continue negotiations with that agent if there is multiple offer or there's other offers coming in and you've started at a low base. We understand why you do it, but sometimes it's not the smartest move.
Yeah, I've had buyers that have recently sold, and then they've engaged us to be able to buy, and their property's been worth X and people have offered them Y. And I say to them, did you get any lowball offers? We're talking $200,000-$300,000. Yep. And what did you tell them? Yeah, okay.
On your bike.
Great.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for, we're either looking to have our offer accepted or our offer counted. They're the two goals that we're looking for. It's either A, B, or C, accepted, rejected, or counted. And you don't want it to be rejected. No, we're not interested in that buyer. And what you can find, particularly if you've been out there exploring property for a number of months and you've put in low ball offers to a number of agents, when it comes time to a property that might actually meet your brief and suit, I don't think the agent's going to be in a rush to call somebody that's going to offer them a lowball. Now, it's different when you've got no idea in regards to how to appraise a property, and I appreciate that most buyers that are out there, they're being guided to the best of their ability by the agent and any particular comparables that they can draw down on. But when it's a contact agent and the buyer contacts the agent and the agent says, we're really going to let the market determine the price on this, sometimes buyers don't know if it's a low ball or if it's a rock solid offer or whether or not they're actually overpaying.
Yeah.
They're a little bit blind.
Yeah.
So when we want to be submitting an offer, we've carried out some thorough price analysis on the property, and we've got a range on where we'd like to secure the property. And of course, if it goes above market value or it becomes something that's way too favourable to the seller, we're not the buyer for them. But buyers that are out there, that they're doing their best, and I appreciate that it can be quite blind from time to time. You can understand how they overshoot or underestimate.
It's probably a good time to mention what I experienced the other day, and it's probably happened to you, Jase. Obviously when we're out in the general public and we're not working as buyers agents, we might be just having dinner with our partners or having a coffee somewhere with some friends. Real estate is a hot topic. People love talking about property. I was sitting somewhere on the coast in a cafe, just meeting with someone, and it wasn't a business-related meeting. And while I was waiting for them to arrive, there was two ladies sort of sitting behind me talking about property. And one of the ladies that was the buyer was asking their friend for advice on what she thought of this property in this area. And she was just giving the advice that she felt was useful for her friend. So often when you're buying something as important as a property purchase, like it's a home or it's an investment, when you sell, you engage a professional to help sell the property and get the most money you can through marketing, through negotiation skills that the agent offers, through methods of sale that the agent offers. Yet when a lot of people choose to buy, even though the buyer's agency space is becoming more and more popular, buyers often rely on friends to tell them how much they should pay for a property. Now, how credible is that? I'm using my friend's advice. How many properties have he or she purchased? How well do they know the area? What due diligence have they done? Oh, I wouldn't be paying $1 million for that. Be only worth 900. Based on what? What evidence have you got? So often I think a lot of people take advice of friends, which is fine. You rely on friends for a lot of things, but financial decisions is probably not one that you should be relying on too heavily, unless they're a really savvy investor.
Yep.
And they've bought and sold a lot of property. I get that.
And it's whose lens are we looking through?
Correct.
Like I'm having a look at it going, I prefer something with a bigger backyard. You don't need a bigger backyard, but I don't think that's worth as much because I want one with a bigger backyard. I'm not even buying it.
And the friends are often just trying to protect their friend.
Of course.
But it might be the perfect property. It could be worth $100,000 more than what the friend's offering. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
It is.
And obviously you don't make comment, but you think that's an interesting conversation that you hear often.
I spoke to Bill at the pub.
Yeah, I spoke to Bill at the pub and he reckons his mate, So who are you listening to and who are you getting advice from? So due diligence is something that we talk about a lot. And I think most people that are out there in a competitive market buying property, you mention, so what level of due diligence do you do? I think that would be something they'd really struggle to answer.
Yep.
It's not something they undertake necessarily. Again, how are you weighing up where does the property appraise? What's it worth? What's the real value of the property?
Yep.
What issues may the property have? Is this a good position is this a good suburb? Is there any future development here? Am I just going in all guns blazing and making an offer because, again, what we talked about, streets busy, lots of people at the open home, just got to jump in and buy, and there's no due diligence done whatsoever.
Is it in a flood zone? Is it in a fire
Correct.
zone? I want to put a pool in at some point. Are there any easements on the property? So there's a standard level of due diligence that we carry out on behalf of our clients, and there's definitely even examples where the level of due diligence that I should have carried out hasn't been quite met to the standard of buyer. But you look at the average purchase and what needs to be carried out in regards to due diligence around price and suitability. I think a lot of people would put forward an offer prior to seeing the property, let alone doing a deep dive on the block.
I think I have mentioned this in another video I did where there was a property purchased in my street in a very popular Sunshine Coast suburb. And the first time that the interstate buyers inspected the property was the building and pest. The husband's words, who I've subsequently met as a neighbour, he was underwhelmed, but felt they were too deep into the negotiations. They were cash. I felt the offer was a very generous offer for the property. I knew the previous owners of the property.
Good result for the seller.
Great result for the seller, but like zero due diligence was done on where the property was located, the size of the home in particular. It had a pool, and on the surface it looked like a nice, neat family home, which it was. But given the size of their family, it was just too small. So I know as a result of that, they are now utilising part of the garage as a bedroom.
Yep.
So they bought the wrong property. Didn't do any due diligence.
It's a costly mistake.
And I'd say probably what would have happened, I didn't ask this, but at the building and pest, he may have rung his wife, who was in interstate, and said it's a bit tight for our 4 children, but they wanted to get into the market. So due diligence is a big one, guys. Last but not least, using professional support. Again, negotiation, we've talked about market intelligence, strategy, overestimating personal experience, missing out on off-market properties. There's also professional support in terms of the other professional services,
Yeah, I was at a first home buyers seminar during the week, and they used different dialogue to us, but it's our A team. So what the agents were suggesting to first home buyers, don't arrive to the property that you feel is the right property and then begin the process. Okay, it's now time to engage a conveyancer. It's now time to engage a broker. It's now time to get pre-approved. So we highly recommend that you have an A team, and your A team makes up all of the professional services that are going to be involved in your purchasing decision. They all play a role. And we recently did a building and pest. That particular building and pest inspector had advised us on another property and some issues with that property that subsequently meant that we didn't explore it further. So when we got out to the building and pest inspection, the buyers already knew who he was. And once he finished the inspection, he came out and said, no major defects, guys. This one is all thumbs up. that was all the reassurance that they needed.
Yeah.
So conditions were satisfied early, bought the property. If you begin the process too late, again, you're just going to continue to miss properties. And the goal here is to be able to provide some insight and some advice to allow sunny coasters to get into a property as soon as possible.
One thing that we do when a new client is onboarded in our business, a key question we ask is clearly they're either cash or they're pre-approved. So if they're pre-approved, what does the finance condition look like on a contract for you guys? If we went under contract, found the perfect property for you in the next 7 days, what does the finance clause look like on your contract? Gee, that's a great question, Simon. That you need to ask your broker. Sometimes we talk to the broker.
Yeah. Particularly when they say, he said 21 days would be ideal. And then we'll have a chat with the broker and he says, I can get it done in 7.
Yeah.
That can be the difference between you getting in the market
100%.
or not. Yeah.
100%. It's 21 days at this point in time, guys. Even 14 in this market is not competitive.
And you want to be able to elevate your offer
Yeah.
to be as competitive as possible. Be happy to provide some recommendations if people need some professionals in our space.
Yeah.
And Simon, I think that's all we've got time for today.
So quick recap was the top mistakes buyers make: letting emotion get in the way, unclear criteria, timing, competition, inspections, and no support. I think we've covered all of those very quickly. But guys, thank you for tuning in to our second podcast. Hopefully you got a bit of value out of that. We'll see you on episode 3.
If you need some help, reach out.
See you guys.
Thank you.